Salut, salut, hello. Of course, I will do this reading in English. Um, Even though I could attempt it in French. However, I don't really know the astrological lingo in French. Je sais pas trop bien parler d'astrologie en français. Je sais pas beaucoup. Et quand je fais l'astrologie, j'entre en state of flow et c'est très difficile. Je pourrais le faire, mais il faudrait de la pratique et de voir comment, par exemple, dire comme square, comme carreau. Ça me fait penser trop sur le côté gauche de mon cerveau. Après ça, c'est difficile de être dans l'intuition. Alors, c'est beaucoup mieux en anglais. So, it's much better in English. The readings, I could do them in French, but I just don't really know the you know, um, the most of the astrological terminology and just the fact that I haven't done it, it just complicates matters. So, yeah. But basically, let's dive right in. Let me get my clock started. Okay, very good. So let's go ahead and share the screen. Oceane. Spelled wrong. Who cares? Actually, no, I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna leave it like that. So Oceane, moon in Cancer, first house with Mars there, an ascendant. So you have a stellium in Cancer. And then Sun in Aquarius conjunct Saturn in the 8th. And with aspects, you got the opposition of Uranus and Neptune to your moon, very important. 7 degrees off though, so it's not like exact, like a very super precise one, but still, it's important. And you've got Pluto in the 5th house. Okay, North Node, where you at? North Node, you are in Sag. So this is a very destiny, very linked to to something creative, something something fiery and external. We'll get more into that. So Venus is in Aries. Interesting to have Mars in Cancer and Venus in Aries. Like they normally would prefer to be switched. So yeah, okay. And then Mercury is 6 degrees or 10 degrees from the sun and conjunct Saturn. Whereas Chiron, it's in Leo. Of course, like so many of my clients either have some issue with their Leo. Like that's why they feel called to me, is because I represent Leo. I'm very Leo. I'm not necessarily just talking about my astrological makeup, but also just kind of what I represent, which we can kind of start there with Chiron is like where you have like lots of pain, right? Like where healing needs to be done. By the way, I switch back and forth through my face in this mode. I found that when I'm in this mode, like it gives me this ability to kind of like close my eyes and look at the chart and just almost get deeper. I found it to be very effective, especially about like getting into my intuition and stuff like that. So yeah, everything I do is for the betterment of the reading. So yeah, just want to let you know that. And okay, so obviously as an Aquarius, you're not going to be a typical Aquarius because you'll have Saturn there, so you'll be one of the more Saturnian, more responsible Aquarians. But still, anyone, and you're born in 93, so you still have yet to go through your Saturn return. And I forget what your level of English was. I know it was good, but I'm still going to speak less fast than I usually do. which is very, very difficult for me to make that effort, because I am a fast talker, especially when it comes to astrology. But overall, you know, let's start with, Sun in the 8th house, with all this energy, with the Saturn conjunct it. Like when you have, so you're born 93, as I said. People born, you've yet to experience a Saturn return. So when you experience that, with the fact that Saturn is on your Sun, like literally, like look right here, it's conjunct Saturn, it's the Sun. You're gonna feel some unbelievable release of energy. I mean, it'll probably be a very karmic year. It's coming up. I mean, like, where's your Saturn? Is it, yeah, or it's like literally already started. Like, right? Like, where's, let's see, where is Saturn? Yeah, Saturn's at 23. Also, okay, so new moon is like in a few hours. Okay. So, yeah, you're full blown in your Saturn return. So right now you're probably going through a lot of intense, like it's almost, I need to switch shirts, by the way. I have a white Paris Saint-Germain jersey on, and I'm drinking a coffee, and I have a phobia that I will spill or something like that, and then my jersey's ruined, or it's very hard to get a coffee stain off a white football shirt. But yeah, so the Saturn return, everyone has it around 29 and a half, 30, that age. And it's, a very karmic time where you in essence enter adulthood, right? That's kind of the easiest way of saying it, right? You enter adulthood. That's when one truly becomes an adult. So not that they weren't an adult before, but like that's when one truly like enters like a new level of maturity. Typically when one kind of especially with the Sun on it, when you really start to kind of understand your life purpose and your life mission. And also Saturn is all about restriction. So, with Saturn on your Sun, you've probably been someone who's dealt with some hidden fears, and different energies that for whatever reason have held you back, in the first 30 years. So you're in the thick of it now. So it doesn't usually make sense until like after, in the time after. And if you would like, I do Saturn returns / current astrology readings, and those are very different than this. We actually would meet live, and I would show you your like we would talk about all that's going on for you right now. It kind of also takes form like in somewhat of a counseling, because I have 2 master's degrees in psychology. But basically, like the purpose of that one, it's like the current astrology plus Saturn return. I'd be willing to give you like a very good discount. Is to understand like what the Saturn return is really asking of you, right? So like what's because there's a new chart that is formed with the Saturn return, and some people have it return, one time. Some people have it retrograde over and have 3 different charts. So it's really different individual to individual. So let me know. I mean, I think you got the follow-up. So yeah, we can do the follow-up first, and then you can let me know after that. I mean, some people will do the follow-up and then like right directly after. I actually like to do that because it's fresh in my mind, the chart. That's like probably the best thing. Because like, yeah, like the follow-up is live, and then the current astrology / Saturn return reading would be live too. It could bring a lot, it could really, because your chart is so fresh in my mind, it can be a very, very interesting process. Now, yeah, so moon in Cancer, obviously, it's a very emotional moon sign. We'll sip of coffee. It's some people call it like the best moon sign, right? And you know, it's kind of a weird thing to call anything in astrology best or worse, because there's just good and bad things about everything in astrology. But with Cancer Moon, one thing for sure is that they are able to meet their emotional needs, right? They are able to kind of feel into their emotions and meet the needs. And for example, like I always say, the person with the Cancer Moon is able to cry when they need to cry, right? When something comes up, let's say there's someone with an Aquarius Moon, someone with or Aquarius or Gemini, whatever, like Air Moon, Libra, and someone with a Cancer or Pisces Moon. Well, no, more Cancer or Scorpio, like especially Cancer, the Cancer Moon person will feel that energy right away. And there's not going to be any like it's going to be felt and then boom, tears, crying. So that's why sometimes that they're referred to as like the, you know, the crybaby of the zodiac. And it's not in a bad way. It's just that, you know, at the moon, at the level, and that could just be Cancer in general, but at the moon lunar level, you're really, really able to meet your emotional needs, which is a superpower. It gives you this ultimate energy for being able to nurture yourself, nurture others, be a great mother whenever, you know, whenever that time comes. And yeah, overall, Cancer Moons are, you know, like I said, they're highly, highly emotional, and they have a large emotional attachment to their family. So when we factor in partnership, someone with a Cancer Moon, and you are an Aquarius, you know, with Venus and Aries and all this and that, and we'll get more into the love stuff later. But like, basically, there's definitely a need for someone who can provide a level of like financial and emotional stability. Cancer is really home oriented too. So, one second. Yeah, so Cancers can tend to be the types that like really like to stay home and just chill, you know, like just like they really do like their home to be like this very comfy nest. And yeah, so now the moon also rules the mother. So this is what gets interesting, is that Cancer moons, like probably more than any other moon sign, or definitely more, they have such a need. Actually, I don't want to make that statement. Let's just say, because I don't like using absolutes in astrology, but let's just say that they have a huge need for basically getting a lot of emotional closeness when they're young, when they're growing up, right? Coffee break again. Now, you could have a sibling that's like gone the exact same, maybe they're born the same year as you, right? But let's say they're born like a few months different, they have a completely different chart, they're a completely different person. You guys could have experienced the exact same upbringing with the exact same attention from each parent, all this, that, and the third. But the person with a Cancer moon might be, you know, it might be a way more difficult process for them to really get in touch, or for them. No, sorry, I misspoke. It might, like, they might have like a way larger need for that emotional closeness. I mean, every human needs that, but like Cancer moons especially. So when we see the opposition, hey Mika, Pisika, right? Mon chat est arrivé. When we see the opposition of, I'll switch back to my face because the cat has arrived. Mika. You see? Mika. This is what happens when you meet someone that has their Venus on your Sun and Mercury. Mika. Good girl. Okay. So, where was I? So yeah, so basically like, there's a big emotional need. Now when you have Moon opposite Neptune, It can create rocky emotions with the mother or whoever like the main like emotional nurturer was, which can be difficult, obviously. And like there can be some confusion, some fogginess around that relationship. And in result, when you have Moon opposite Neptune, it can make it difficult to understand. There can be lots of misunderstandings between you and other people, and like confusing feelings, like paranoia. It's a very difficult aspect, right? It makes one super sensitive, like empath level. Like I just had a client who had no other water in her chart, but she was like such an empath, and this is what she had. So yeah, there's definitely like a need for a high level of self-awareness when you have this energy. And what happens is that it comes from this like like deception can come when you have like your own insecurities, anxieties, and it comes from having an imagination, an over imagination, over sensitivity, right? Like imagining things that are not really there. And you can see how problematic that could be in relationships, right? And on a higher level, you can become someone who has psychic abilities and who can get past that and learn to filter out like what's right and what's wrong. And yeah, better differentiate between truth and fiction. But yeah, it's like really important for you to understand exactly what someone means, like when they speak to you, because you can be very, very high up when it comes to like abstract, spiritual, philosophical like types of thoughts that some people like are not even close to being able to have. But then just like the very basic everyday conversation, like you could be like, for example, like, what did he mean when he said how are you, or something like that, right? Or like he said it in a way that was like, I don't know, like it felt something, like it's stuff like that. So it's important to kind of reality check, which in psychology is like the process of finding a way to state how how you're interpreting something, and then basically ask the other person. I know it sounds hard. Mika, get away from my coffee, Mika. Coffee bad for cats. And somehow be able to like, hey, this is like my impression on like the situation, especially if you're in a deep partnership, right? To be able to like be like, hey, this is like what I understand of it. And of course, not every person will dig that, but the right people will. But yeah, so like I don't really understand, or like like this is like kind of like what like how I interpret this. I don't know if you want like I have like like I have sometimes like I see things. I don't know if you want to like demean yourself in that way, where like you're like talking bad about yourself. But like yeah, you just ask, like you figure out with someone you trust like what they really mean, because there can be this big differentiation between the truth and what someone says a lot of times. So very important. Let's see here. So that is massive. With Uranus, that kind of creates like a very so moon, so lots of people that have these kinds of aspects, they have some level of like anxiety, or there can definitely be not psychosomatic, psychopathology, like psychological issues linked with these placements. Now, definitely with like the Sun and Saturn, that can create like someone who had to work really, really hard to get their self-esteem in order, in check, right? And their life is really, really ruled by karma. I just literally had this exact this happens to me. For all the people, if there's I know there's some of you who watch all my readings, you guys are seeing, or actually you guys didn't see this last one because it was a private one. But just yeah, it was like very, very similar. Like someone with their Sun on their Saturn. I was like explaining that. So it's interesting that like I picked your chart. Well, you were next, but yeah. So yeah, what can happen is that it's a very exciting energy. but it creates like a highly erratic emotional life, very up and down with moods. It can kind of be looked at. I don't want to like pathologize it, but it's all like it's like lots of like issues with relationships because there's like such up and down energy. So it's like your subconscious feelings and reactions, like, and especially with the Neptune, which adds a confusion. There can be lots of like dramatic changes, like boom, I'm gonna make this decision, like very, very like impulsive, emotional turmoil. And what needs, like, that's like people who have this like are naturals for like the healing arts, because they can gain so much through it by helping others and also from learning about themselves, right? But what can happen in relationships with this, I'll get more into it, is that it can create lots of boredom, like a constant need for like excitement, right? Like the kind of grass is greener on the other side type of energy. And you could imagine why that'd be problematic, because you see you're with someone for a while, for example, not that you do this, right? And imagine that, oh, you meet someone new, they seem all good, they seem like everything is like perfect with them, and then you break up with that person you've been with a long time, and then turns out, well, that person actually wasn't that good, so that's kind of what that does. So very important to be aware of that. Very, very important. Aside from that, it can really create like an emotional distance, because it's very, very freedom seeking, right? So it's all about freedom. And what can happen is that there can be this part of you that in relationships can sometimes feel like it's like a certain level, like a prison of some sort, right? And like a lot of detachment, right, can come from it, even as a moon in Cancer. So yeah, like it's really, really noticeable in relationships usually. So the mother, or like it's usually the mother. It's in some charts it's the father. It's whoever played that traditional mother role. Could have like reinforced this like very independent streak, like maybe they were very independent. And yeah, there could be like like absent parent, crazy, abusive, angry, just unpredictable, right? And it could also be like good, like someone who's just different, like an astrologer, like a occultist, a shaman, who knows? Either way, it influences how you relate to people at the emotional level, right? And usually it's like a difficulty in making meaningful and stable relationships, right? It's like what's very common, and I've seen that in lots of my clients. And because it's the moon, it's very unaware. You can be very, very unaware of it, right? So yeah, the key is just diving deeper into yourself spiritually and becoming more aware of like of kind of how that plays out. So yeah, very important. I like to spend a lot of time on the moon. So sun, so it's very clear you have lots of karma with each parent. Sip of coffee. It's kind of weird that each sip of coffee I've had, I've been like where you don't see me. Like, what if I've just been like chugging like cognac, or like just like, I don't even know. I wonder, have I ever tried? I'm trying to think of if I've ever done a reading with any alcohol in my system. It's a really good question. I don't think I have. Fuck. Have I? Let me think. I think I may have tried once, and because I'm not stupid when I'm drunk. Sometimes I'm like giving amazing astrology, but like the flow just wasn't the same. I think I tried once. I think it was in Turkey or something. I may have tried once, and I think I just like stopped after like 15 minutes. That's like what I'll do very rarely. There's very rare times where I don't feel like I'm doing a good job, which like never happens. Like it's very, very, very rare. It's either like when I'm just like wasn't feeling in the first place, and I was like, okay, let's give it a try. And yeah, but yeah, that would be funny. I'm gonna finish my coffee really quick. So, so Cancer and Aquarius. So like the thing about it is that you're not a typical Aquarius. You have a Saturn conjunction. When you have an outer planet on your, so Aquarius used to be ruled, like when you have an outer planet, I need to start finishing my sentences. I have this tendency, very Mercury and Pisces thing. But when you have an outer planet conjunct your sun or your sun or your moon, on the sun level, like it just completely like recolors and reshapes like who you are, right? Like your sun being, you being like a Aquarius sun. Well, guess what? It's ruled by the planet of Capricorn, right? And in like in traditional astrology, Aquarius or Saturn ruled Aquarius and Capricorn. So it would definitely make you kind of like a more grounded Aquarius. And so that's key to know. And just overall, aside from that, just lots of restrictions that kind of enter life, right? And karma and fate just playing such a massive role. Now, all this is in the 8th house. The 8th house is about death, rebirth, and transformation. It's a very spiritual house. It's no surprise you've come to me. You're born in '93, and you're an Aquarius. And a lot of my younger clients, I mean, you're 3 years younger than me, but a lot of my younger clients are Aquarius, because they're not afraid to, they're Aquarius rules astrology, right? Like, there's a lot of astrologers that are Aquarius, and I imagine that in the future there's going to be even more. So, 8th house sun, that's like where you're meant to manifest your life purpose. And I have an 8th house sun too. So you're really meant to dig deep into like the more mysterious parts of life, whether it's like, ask like really digging into your own shadow. And people with 8th house suns, they tend to look back at their lives and have these like very distinct eras, right? Where they can like literally like, I can like totally back this up. I can look back I can divide my life into different epochs, des époques différentes, where sometimes in French, I know things better in French, sometimes in English, sometimes even Romanian. Where like it literally felt like, yeah, it was still me, but like it felt like I was like being played by an actor. Like it was the change is that drastic, and all 8th house sun people feel that because they go through these drastic death, rebirths, and transformations where they like ego death, like letting parts of yourself die. So death is birth and death play a prominent role in your life, and in many different levels, right? It'll make you really interested in all the mysteries of life, the taboos, anything that people tell you shouldn't look at or you shouldn't be into, because also your moon opposite Uranus is going to make you very rebellious, potentially like against the mother or your early nurturing, right? Want to be different, and Aquarius is a sign of the one who wants to be different, right? So like really what happens is that death becomes like, if you've read my book, I don't know if you have, it's called Pisces Live 9 Lives. It's available on every Amazon, including the French one. And basically like the start, I just like first 2 chapters I talk about my life and how crazy it's been, and then each chapter is like its own book. And one of the chapters is like what I consider probably the most important one, in a sense of like what it meant for me, and how key it was to like me being like where I'm at right now. is overcoming the fear of death. So 8th house sun people, or 8th house people in general, will be very, very like, oh, fuck, just opened this water bottle and exploded. Ah, all over my leg, my left leg. What does that mean? No, but yeah. So there can be a fascination with like the questions that most people are afraid to ask. Most people are afraid to talk to you. And also, when we do our follow-up, remind me to talk to you about a special group that I think that you would really enjoy. But just remind me, I'll forget. Make sure to write down. If you take notes, I highly suggest you take notes. Maybe, like, most people watch their readings like multiple times. I always tell people, first time, just watch it. Maybe if there's like some really important notes, take it down. But like, if you watch it multiple times, not everyone watches multiple times. Most people do. Take notes like the other time for the follow-up, because the follow-up is really based on you. It's really based on comparing your lived experience with what I said, and also answering questions, and really getting everything firm, making sure everything's really understood. But yes, it's very intense. There's lots of intense, it makes you an intense person, lots of very intense life situations that kind of push you into away from the more superficial side of life, and really wanted to dive deep into the meaning of life, right? By the way, I just randomly, like, I'll do things like, I don't smoke cigarettes, but the other day I was like, you know what, I want to have some chewing tobacco, like the Swedish kind that like you put under your lip, and I've been doing that for like a week. But I'm like one of these weird people that I can like use tobacco and then just like stop it like super easily. So I just like was like, I don't know, let's try it out. So just letting you know. So yeah, there's like a lot of change in your life, and with Saturn there, it's gonna help ground that a little bit, but there can definitely be like fears of intimacy. And intimacy, like that deep soul bonding love, is going to be one that's very important for you, especially as a Cancer moon. If your emotional needs are not met in childhood, relationships can be an area where you seek them out, right? And with your North Node in Leo, it adds up perfectly. You're trying to become not North Node, Chiron in Leo. North Node is in Sag, so yeah, similar. You're really trying to like acquire like deep like wisdom, like the stuff I'm sharing, and your North Node's conjunct my moon, so maybe we have some past life energy together, who knows. But basically, wow, this is like a very intense, like the link that you have in your chart of the ways you're trying to improve in this lifetime are really linked to things that I have naturally. So interesting, right? Like the Sagittarius and the Leo, right off the bat. And then we both have 8th house suns. It's not uncommon with clients. So yeah, so relationships can be rocky, and it really takes like a special kind of person, not in the sense of like it's hard for you to get relationships, you do have Mars rising in Cancer, which I'm just gonna say is typically a pretty sexy energy. And by the way, I purposely, like, I've never seen a photo of you. I have no idea. I know you're blonde, I think, but I make sure not to look at anything. Like, I never go on my clients' pages before readings. I want to do it in a very a priori, that's Latin, not French, a priori way, like where it's very objective, très objectif. But yeah, there's definitely this part of you that's like very, very unconventional and that wants to kind of break from the norm. And I know in France, I know how it is, in my family, like my French side, half French, half Americans, but most of my family's French. There's definitely these trends, like I see in so many French families, like this, these trends, right? These cycles, like this this passed on generation to generation, like kind of cultures in the family, right? So as an Aquarius, you might be someone who's meant to kind of break that in your family. And one way of you doing that is following that North Node, right? North Node in astrology represents, think of it like in a metaphoric sense, it's like the mountain that you need to climb to get to your highest awareness, highest soul growth in this lifetime. And it's, you know, it's in the 6th house in Sag, conjunct the part of fortune. So it's like, yeah, there's going to be lots of like when you're headed that direction, you're going to have lots of, you're going to really feel lots of joy. You're really going to be in your flow state when you're learning a lot, when you're, especially with your midheaven in the 9th house. It would suggest that your career, you know, maybe you're someone who has a career in like a helping type of profession or something that like involves compassion in some type of way. But really, like, you know, you would prefer like a career or career / like dharma, like what your dharma, you know, the word of like what your external life is really like meant to bring you. Like on one level, there's like this deep introspection of like trying to understand yourself on a deeper level, which a lot of times comes through the mirror of like relationships. But then also there's this like part of you that's like really trying to meet people from different countries. That's why this group will be so good for you. Meet people with different worldviews, meet like, you know, astrologers, you know, people with different philosophical backgrounds. So really like, and you're someone like as an 8th houser who like people with different worldviews, and then like, you know, like like different philosophies, right? You might be like an avid reader potentially, or someone who is you know, very interested in learning, right? Learning real wisdom, not bullshit, like not surface level. And that's kind of like the thing with 8th house sun people, is that sometimes they can start out life and you know, they can outgrow their friends or outgrow the people around them, and it can kind of be difficult, right? Especially since Aquarius is, you know, it's a very social sign, but it's also, it can be like the water bearer, the one that's different, the one that stands out. And you know, with, let's go ahead back to sharing, because a lot of my clients are more right brain, more visual learners. So with Chiron down here in the 2nd house in Leo, that's like where the pain, the healing, but also like where you can like kind of become, like once you go through your own version of that, you can become someone that helps other people through that. In Leo, it relates to pain around self-expression, pain around feeling like you could be that inner child, right? Because with Saturn there on your sun, it could create someone who potentially like felt like they had to like really grow fast, like maybe they like, and they weren't really able to necessarily like express themselves. And like when I see Leo Chiron, I always think of the word or the term like inner child work, like the need to like kind of, and you have that Cancer moon, you know, in your 1st house, which can make you like, give you the ability to really express your emotions, and have those be like a prominent part of your personality, which can be very, very good for any kind of art or any kind of creativity. But yeah, so that's extremely important. And also like, you know, Pluto in the 5th house, that gives the energy of the vertex there of like, you know, the need to take like this life being very based on like you finding that authentic self-expression, right? That that like taking, like trying different creative outlets and finding one that sticks, or many, right? But so like there's like a big, let me grab my Pluto book, like a big creative purpose in this life. And I'm actually going to read from my handwritten, I'll put the camera back on, my handwritten book, because Pluto is like it's not like the North Node, but I mean, when you put them together, it makes a lot of sense, right? So Pluto in the 5th house, and it's like Pluto represents like the darkness, the shadow, where you have to confront it, but like when you confront it, you find like the deepest gain. So sense of destiny and creative purpose. The destiny is to express yourself and find yourself through that self-expression. So when I think of that, I think of like art therapy. Like I think of like the idea that in art therapy, you're drawing, no one's ever gonna see it, or you're doing some type of art, right? It doesn't have to be like in the therapy, but like the whole point is that through that creativity, you're learning, like, you know how like musicians, I need to go air conditioner on. Like musicians, for example, like they deepen themselves through their music. This is like some bullshit music, but they like through their art, you know, they're able to really understand themselves better, to express their emotions. And that's kind of how it is. But the thing with the Leo Chiron is that it can kind of block that creativity. So there's like a big need to kind of push through it and to push yourself to express yourself. So yeah, I mean, and then like South Node, oh yeah, I was gonna read this. So there's a need to advance some key part of your creative nature. There's past lifetimes spent where this development was sidelined. So like where you weren't able to really like express yourself creatively. And there's a deep drive to follow any creative urges and desires. And yeah. And the polarity point, like kind of where you can like really find healing, is in joining like groups or friend groups, or, you know, groups of any sort where there's like they're really linked to you and to your authentic self. Now, with your 11th house of friends ruled by Taurus, which, you know, is where your Chiron is in a second house. Taurus rules the second house, and then Chiron's there. It's like lots of healing can be done in groups for you, and with the right people, right? Keyword, with the right people. So that's very important. So yeah, creativity, creative outlet, really big. Now, backtracking a bit, where did the aspect grid go? Hi, Mika. Let's see. Definitely like a very artistic kind of ability, like potential. Hi, Mika. Like you have this ability to really like express your emotions, right? Like to get that Cancer moon out in a way that's like pleasant, and that, you know, potentially is like other people really like hearing, right? But yeah, like with the Cancer moon, like I said, you know, it usually is like more homebody types who really like the comfort of their own home, and the mother relationship is super important. And sometimes they can even have like trouble breaking away from home even later in their life. So how, you know, matters with family, like your family matters are super important. Your relationship with your family members, like more than others. Now, in the first house, you know, the moon there, like I said, you know, it's very, it makes one adaptable, and where their life, you know, like change can be like a very big theme within the life, right? There can even be like an emotional need for adventure and for changes and for differences, which runs a lot counter to the Cancer energy you have, right? Because Cancer, it isn't really about that, right? And also it's very good for like, you know, being in public situations, but also it makes you very like affected by the emotions of other people, right? And like first house moon people, like it's like their emotions, they kind of lay them on the table, but then like the Saturn on the sun can kind of restrict you going towards that life purpose. But now it's this really ripe time. It's very synchronistic that you're getting the reading from me now, because you're probably really feeling this urge to kind of like go deep with your spirituality, to like take it to a new level. So that's that. You know, Mercury is also sitting conjunct Saturn, so that could speak to like a certain shyness, especially when like, you know, your Mercury is in Aquarius, so you're very forward. It's kind of like a very genius energy, like thinking like very different than other people around you. And with Saturn there, it can, until this time, it can kind of like make it difficult for you to have that self-expression, right? Make it difficult for you to really speak, I guess, like, yeah, speak authentically and salad in my teeth. Like, yeah, there can be some level of like feeling held back in your throat chakra. So like learning like to express your truth, and like I said, like with the right friends and the right kind of like, because it's a very spiritual chart. That's really important. Having people around you that you can express. As a Cancer moon, you know, there's emotionally to have people around you that you can express all of your emotions and not feel like you have to hold anything back, right? Now, let's see. So Sun trine Jupiter, that's very, very good energy, very kind of optimistic energy, very, very good for popularity. And opposite Chiron. So that could also speak to like some pain with the father, and maybe the father figure was the one who kind of led to this this need, this I need to move to my desk because my computer's dying and my charger is kind of dying too, and it's like only working when I have it at a certain angle. But as I was saying, like Chiron, that Chiron opposite Sun, yeah, it creates even more like usually like a difficulty in expressing your true being, right, and really letting that part of you out, which can be difficult because, like, you know, 8th house in Aquarius, like Aquarius typically, you know, just like like by itself isn't the most emotional sign. So you probably read horoscopes if you like, you know, if you were like kind of like if you were just not like just kind of getting into astrology at some point, I don't know your level of astrology, and just not resonate with the Aquarius part, because, you know, you'd be a lot more emotional because the moon sign, but also yeah, it's like this battle between like, how can I be like this nonconformist? I have a cat hair in my mouth. 1 second. Mika. But then also like it's this back and forth, and we'll talk about this. Remind me to talk about this potential split in our follow-up. Felix, stay away. Felix, opreshite. Felix, good boy. Yeah, so it's like part of you that wants to rebel and be very, very, you know, different, lead this eccentric kind of like individualistic life that's very different, and this other part that holds you back. I imagine now you're kind of, or like now / like next year, a lot will open up around you really discovering that, really discovering that true purpose. Like Saturn on the sun, it can make it so like the first 30 years, like karma plays such a huge role, but after that, there's way more like free will. And when I mean karma, I mean like fate, like fate and and different circumstances, whether it's, you know, your family, and having to kind of like undo, or not undo, like balance out karma, right? So midheaven, you know, and yeah, like I was gonna say more about the so also during this time, and you know, hopefully we get to do a Saturn return, and that, like I said, that's the, if you do that reading, the current astrology one, I'll give you a massive discount, and it's a live reading, so we definitely go through everything, right? It's not recorded. I think I already said that, maybe I didn't, but like this will also be a huge time. Of course, I'd have to like really pull the Saturn return chart, but where you're really like confronting your darkness, confronting the things, you know, your fears, things that maybe you always were interested in but never like really got around to studying. And yeah, finding your voice as well, right? Getting past like what Saturn and Mercury can do when they're in conjunction with that very interesting stellium, is kind of hold back, like it brings a lot of critical thinking, right? So it's very good for like any kind of like challenging like work, whether it's like in your job or whatever. But it can make one, it can kind of give one, like Saturn in general, it can kind of make one more melancholic, right? And the way they think, sometimes a little bit pessimistic. Then you also have Jupiter in your 4th house, which rules your childhood, rules your kind of the unconscious mind. So that will push a lot of that away. So there's a lot of like pushback between the outer planets, like kind of counteracting. And I'm curious to see like kind of how they play out in your life. We'll definitely talk about that. But like yeah, you like, it's actually like, I think of Mercury Saturn as a very like, it's really good for intelligence, right? Because Saturn rules memory, Mercury rules communication, how we think. So when you combine them, you have like a very disciplined, well-structured mind, right? Who likes to like apply themselves to like mentally challenging things. And yeah, very productive. Felix, get away from my food. Felix, Sutsu, Scorpio cat. But like the big difficulty is what I said before, like the tendency to get in a rut, like only looking at the negatives. So sometimes people with this can like have this like, and this totally speaks to like the past, your South node, which is like the past life tendency in Gemini, to constantly be doing something, right? To kind of distract you. Like feel like I always need to be productive. I always need to be doing this or that, right? And yeah, definitely like Saturn is like, you know, it can be melancholic, and so yeah, negative thinking can definitely show up. Like I said, Jupiter in the 4th house can push a lot of this away. Jupiter conjunct the Sun. And does Jupiter conjunct Saturn? Where was that? Saturn. Yeah. So not conjunct, excuse me. I meant to say trine. So Jupiter is actually going to make a lot of this a lot easier. Does it? And it doesn't trine Mercury though. Maybe by association. But yeah, this is when we have to like watch out for like low moods and depression, pessimism, fear. It can make someone kind of like critical in how they speak to other people. And yeah, like there can be issues with relationships and separations, right? So yeah, it can make one really in touch with that. But the fact that you have the Cancer moon, I mean, you're so emotional. So it's like, and we're gonna get to the love part of this chart in a second, right? But this is the big but. If you like use your mind in a very productive and useful manner, the good side of Saturn gets reinforced. And that basically means that lots of self-respect and self-esteem comes from you seeing yourself as this like responsible person, like maybe even the master of, you know, whatever work you do, your field. But yeah, it's usually like a pretty serious thinker, which, you know, it doesn't work badly in this house, right? And what happens after that is that then everything I said before can go away, and it can create that longevity in relationships, right? So yeah, and it's all linked to the North Node and the Pluto energy and the Chiron energy of like taking that creative risk, like finding outlets that are positive escapes, that really are like from your authentic self, not like what society tells you should be doing, and really diving into different worldviews and different ways of seeing reality, and kind of like always like kind of having that open-mindedness, right? Which Aquarius are, in my experience, very good at. So this could be a real interesting time for you, a real opening. So one thing that can like positive reinforcements, what's it called? Affirmations can be really, really positive to help this, like about self-esteem, like I am this, I am that, like manifesting in that type of way. So let's go back to the chart. So, okay, love. So Venus in Aries, and Venus is unaspected, interesting. That can create someone who is kind of obsessed with relationships. Like they sometimes, unaspected Venus people can like see their, like they can almost sometimes judge their life and like how good they're doing, like their overall life quality, on the question of like, how good is my relationship life, right? There can be like such like a paramount, like a massive importance placed on relationships, like they are your save all be all, right? So the fact that's in Aries is, you know, typically even females who have Venus in Aries, they can be the ones, even with all that, you know, we haven't even talked about your Cancer energy, the rising, we talked about the moon, we haven't talked about the rising in Mars, which is rising. They can be the ones that are the pursuers, right? They see someone they're interested in, they go after them. Now with yeah, so that's kind of like the Venus in Aries, you know, you'll really value independence within relationships. So like there's one part of you that of course needs that like really deep emotional closeness. And where's your Juno? Your Juno is in what sign? It's also in Cancer. So yeah, there's definitely this part of you that really like there's this kind of like this dual energy of like what you really, really want in relationships, where like on one side, it's like really wanting someone who like understands all of your emotional depth, and who's there for you, who's patient, who's, you know, willing to have like the conversations, these deep conversations, and kind of help you through different things. But then also someone who gives you independence, right? Because like I said before, with the moon there, in any type of like ultra clingy relationship, it's not going to work for you. Like you like the relationship, and I tell this to like most of my clients, right? Not all, but when I see it, I talk about it. Like I could write a book about it. I say this too. The Aquarian relationship, right? We're moving into this age of Aquarius, and I'll give you an example. Like obviously, me and you, we have way different energies. Like, you know, I have a girlfriend. She lives with me most of the time. She's gonna go home tomorrow for a few days. But you know, we have like well, for my own reason, because I can't sleep with other people, like any tiny movement. I have this thing called sensory deficit disorder, where like any movement or sound. And I also just like having my own space, though. I like having my own room and my own kind of lounge area. Like I like space, and I think that is kind of that's my personal view. I could be wrong. That that could be like the future of relationships, where both people are. One second, hold on. I just got an important text. 1 second. Maybe I'll just pause this actually for a second. I need to answer. Okay. So sorry, I just had to handle something. So yeah, basically, with love, there's that part of you that needs that independence, and it needs to have a relationship that's helping you go towards this energy, right? This creative energy, and this open-mindedness. So being with someone that is very opposed to like ideas that you might be interested in, and it's very closed-minded, like that's not going to work for you, especially as an Aquarius. Like Aquarius is all about freedom. Even if you have Saturn there, like the Saturn return is going to open up a lot of that pure Aquarius energy, right? So definitely like a lot of depth, and someone who understands that process. They don't have to be a certain sign or anything like that. They just have to really like be also independent, like in their own way. You'll value that. And yeah, and then with Mars, where it is, Mars is also unaspected. Damn. So unaspected Mars, and it's rising. So that, even though you have a Cancer rising, and Juno's there too, so like your ideal partner, like, right, what Juno is like someone who, like I said, can be independent, but also very nurturing. So it's not really like sometimes I get readings where like there's all these different criteria to like the ideal partner. For you, it's not really like that. It's someone who allows you to, like I said, to individualize, but also, and I think I was talking about the Aquarian relationship before I cut off, but yeah, so that's very important. But like back to what I was saying about the Aquarian relationship, then we'll go back to the Cancer energy. It's like, yeah, like not being so tied, like how so many of our parents are, because a lot, we see the divorce rates, and I think a lot of that comes from spending too much time with one person, honestly, if I'm being really frank, and not having your space. And what happens in astrology, because I do composite like relationship astrology also, is that there's a third chart that's born, right? It's like two people come together, two energies, if you want to call it chart and energy, and they form what's called a composite chart, which is like the baby chart. So what I believe is that when two people are too intertwined, they start to lose themselves, right? And in Aquarius, that's not going to fly. So it's like, how can you keep your own individuality within relationships? That's what's really important. And have someone who also, like where there's that dual kind of like emotional mothering energy, like nurturing, right? And I was gonna share. Where'd it go? So yeah, like with the Cancer rising, Mars rising in Cancer, like Mars, it doesn't even matter what sign, Mars rising is going to make someone very, very powerful, very assertive. Now Mars is unaspected, so it's going to be even more powerful, and it's retrograde. Damn, that's crazy. So that actually holds it back a little bit. Oof, that's a lot of energy. Very interesting Mars you have. So like Mars retrograde, I don't know, I kind of lost what I wanted to like share the screen there. But Mars retrograde, like on its own, right? Just like purely independent, like not really worrying about the signs or anything like that. It basically what it means is that, or not Mars retro, like unaspected Mars, right? Like you know how your moon had like the opposition between you know, like it's kind of being held in check by like those other planets. When a planet has no aspects, meaning they have no other planets that are having any meaningful like angular relationship to them, it's almost like a free-for-all, like they're just like woo, like energy, right? Like it's like a president with no, you know, Congress or no Senate or whatever, you know, it's just like a dictatorship kind of. So with the Venus, as I said before, and also another thing with an aspect of Venus is there can be like heightened like material and sensual desires, and yeah, a real go-getter energy and love, and it's very rare to have, I've never seen it, to have both Venus and Mars unaspected. And yeah, so with Mars, it's definitely the most noticeable in terms of like unaspected planets, because it's all about action, aggression, anger, also sexuality. So it can create a quick-tempered energy, right? But the retrograde is going to hold a lot of that back in, which can kind of like make that energy inward. So there can be like inner anger, or like stuff like especially in Cancer, where you feel like that can lead to like passive aggression or an inability to really get that energy out. So like usually, yeah, it's very direct, visible, like obvious, like instant, kind of like boom, this is it. But then in retrograde, it takes that whole energy that would be just going outward like crazy, inward, and it makes the person like use a lot of energy, like reliving past experiences, especially like with Cancer moon, that's very linked, like a very, very big emotional attachment to the childhood and the past. And yeah, it can make someone a very past oriented person, right? So also it's very spiritual, like there's like this big tendency for having like a priority on fulfilling like spiritual desires. Like sex, when it comes to sex, it has to be like really deeply rooted in love, right? Because it can feel less fulfilling, even though I just said that thing about like the Venus, right? So there has to be that like that real kind of soul binding energy when it comes to sex and relationships and intimacy. Like it can't just be like some one night stand stuff, you know? Not to say you can't have any of those, just like it's not typical. Now, from a karmic perspective, what's interesting is that Mika is back. There's like this energy where you're somehow trying, Mika, to recreate situations from past lifetimes. And like there can be like this energy where you're like trying to unconsciously find people who, Mika, sit down. Like finding people who like in the present can symbolize people who are from past lives, if that makes sense. And yeah, there can be like a kind of like a coming on too strongly energy and love. and kind of like an eagerness to figure things out. But really, Mars retrograde also karmically, it means that like either there was like an underusage or an overusage of the Mars archetype in past lives. Now, with your chart, with your North Node, I would say it's probably an underusage where you didn't speak out like when you're supposed to, right, Mika? You didn't act when you need to act. And in this life, you're really trying to become more assertive. You're trying to become more, and which is difficult when you lack any fire in your chart, right? Because you have the water and you have the air. You have fire, excuse me. You have your Venus, right? But like still, and you don't have Earth. So we need to talk about that too. Yeah, it could speak about like karmically. Let's see if it's linked to the nodes at all. Nope. Yeah, it could speak to like kind of a need to like act in this lifetime, a need to be assertive and to learn to get the energy that's stored within you out, which can be difficult, right? Now, so we can see how these would all play out in love. Now, there's more with the love stuff. Your descendant here in Capricorn, right? It speaks more to like that need for like, you're giving me cat hairs everywhere, but I love you. Mika. It can speak to kind of like, and you also have Neptune and Uranus in the 7th house, so like spiritual relationships would be very, very powerful. But there's also some warning signs with these two. Like I already talked about, like how, like, well, like definitely something very solid, but you have to watch out for like having like the rose-colored glasses in love, as I call them, with Neptune there, where you see someone for their potential as opposed to like who they really are. That's why like that real solid person is needed. That person that you can count on 1,000%. They can go out to the club, 1,000% that they're, even if a girl approaches them, or actually I need to not assume sexual orientation. Mika, you're getting hair all over me. But your partner, even if they get approached by anyone, that they're not going to act on it. But yeah, like really like in with the rest of what I've been saying in this reading, it can create confusion and fog in that area of life. And the best way is to find that individual and to really take your time in relationships, right? Because with the Mars and the Venus in the ways they are, there can be this real like speed and this real like desire to kind of make things happen quickly and hastily. And that can backfire because you might be like in a really like solid relationship. Maybe it's not perfect. No, nothing is perfect, and you can almost, there can be an energy where you almost like you see someone else and it's like grass is green on the other side, as I said before, and then you get to know them better, and you realize shit, they're not that good. Now with Uranus there, it's way different, and that kind of speaks to, I'll show Mika more. That kind of speaks to wanting like a more unconventional type of relationship, that where space is given, and like I said, like where you're really allowed to be who you truly are in the relationship, and you might be more attracted to like unconventional types. And if there's like too much clinginess, right, where it's like kind of pushing you away from the life purpose energy, where you're not getting that freedom, which, as an Aquarius sun, we all know that Aquarius is all about freedom and individuality. It can feel like a prison. So being able to express that is extremely important. And relationships are going to be a big place, a very, very karmic place, because it's ruled, your relationship house is ruled by Saturn, which is conjunct your sun. So this is another area of your life right now that could potentially open up a lot, right? It could, like any karmic blockages in that area could really start to open up. Now, moving forward, Jupiter in Libra, that is like a very diplomatic energy. It kind of creates someone who has like a very strong concern for justice in general, and that's very Aquarian. And they really want to express spiritual values within relationships, and they want to have relationships that are very fair. It's also very good for like any career that involves like, whether it's like counseling or being a diplomat. It's very good for being like a sociable person, someone even with all this very deep energy in your chart, your hair's everywhere, who's able to kind of like do the small talk and do the things they need to do to get to where they want to get. Now, moving on to kind of like a more dark part of your chart is Black Moon Lilith. Now, Black Moon Lilith is not a planet, right? It is a potential. And I'll show you. It's right here next to the midheaven. So instantly what I think when I see that is that there can be some self-sabotaging that can come up when it relates to you and really fulfilling like what you're really meant to do. And with midheaven ruled by Neptune, being in Pisces ruled by Neptune in the 7th, relationships, or like it could be like something like where you're working with clients in a one-on-one like kind of environment, or like a close business partnership. And you also have to watch out for that, because there can be like some fogginess and confusion around like who to trust when it comes to like work. But yeah, Black Moon Lilith in Pisces is about like kind of like on your lowest vibration. There can be like self-victimization, like using like emotions, kind of like almost like being like kind of using that Cancer moon in like a lower way, like kind of crybaby energy. But also, on a higher energy, Black Moon Lilith conjunct midheaven can be someone who's like a witch, who's like made to be like a witch, who's made to like really like become very, very spiritual and have a career that relates to that. But yeah, definitely like more cat hair in my mouth. Like feeling bad for yourself, this, that, and the fourth is kind of that. And also escapism is and self-sabotage. It's on the midheaven, so it relates to that area of life of ninth house, midheaven, which speaks to the career really needing to hold some meaning, some deep meaning that helps you move towards that Sagittarian North Node of of kind of like growth, like not just spiritual growth, but like growth in terms of your understanding of the universal big picture and how everything works. And then of course, yeah, so your South Node opposite of your North Node is in Gemini, and that just speaks of like lifetimes where maybe there's kind of like the scattered energy running around and kind of like not like being like there's a need to like find loyalty in this lifetime and like a one-pointed vision, like really like in the story of the zodiac, the Sagittarian part is how you find the values that you then like after like the higher like philosophical values that you then use towards your career, right? So there can be like a past life tendency of filling life with like tons of activities, tons of people, like social butterfly energy. And with that, you can definitely be someone who is very, very good socially, who can you're meant to use that South Node to get to the North Node. So using that ability to kind of like communicate with lots of different people and all that, despite all the other stuff, but it has to be people that are like you, right? And you're a rare type of person. So yeah, it's like really about like finding this sense of direction and higher vision. And then like in the 12th house, it's like South and North and the 6th, which I didn't really talk about. That's about like learning responsibility, right? Which your Saturn on your Sun is kind of like this teacher, this like karmic teacher that's constantly on you and keeping you in track, right? Yeah, kind of like letting go of like past life tendencies to kind of use escapism in whatever way to kind of move you away from like the higher ideals. So aside from that, let's see if we have any of these. Okay. Any fixed stars? Mika, what'd you find? 1 second. Mika. What is that, Mika? What did you find? You're looking at me all guilty. I think she stole one of my crystals and is playing with it. Okay, so let's see. Nothing there, nothing there. Okay. Not seeing any. Let's try this list. Mika, you're literally putting hair in my mouth. Okay, so this. I'll just show you what I'm doing, just so you know, because I'm just searching. Don't worry, I know it looks complicated. Okay. Procyon on the moon. Midheaven. Nothing there. Okay. So I think that's the only one I see is the Procyon on the moon. Now I want to actually open the relationship. I want to open also. Pan. So Pan. I don't know much about Pan, and also, part of marriage is on your Venus. That's very good for marriage. Like that's very, very prominent energy for getting lucky in marriage, basically. I need to look at one thing. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so Moon conjunct Procyon. This is how I end the reading because this is the only fixed star I found. So what it says, this is based off of like old literature. Occult interests. There you go. Restless. Never remains long in one place. There can be issues with friends, partners, employees. So yeah, that kind of speaks further to what I've been saying. And pan, I don't know much about that, but maybe it means that there's like potential for like being pansexual. Let's see if I can find anything about Pan. So it talks about like kind of like a hippie-ish vibe, like the realm of the senses, and conjunct your Venus, right? Spontaneous, youthful, innocent, well-meaning. Where we want to throw off the chains of societal expectations and cultural conditioning with the energy of Woodstock. So yeah, so it's conjunct your Venus, so that kind of goes with what I've been saying, you know, of like really wanting to express those energies in relationships. Anyways, that's it. Hope you enjoyed. I, of course, went over. I've been trying to keep them at an hour, but it's kind of impossible these days. Hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to speaking with you in a follow-up. And Mika, anything to say since you've been so present in this reading? Have you ever seen a cat this loving? Mika? Okay. I'm trying to end the recording, but Mika's not letting me. Okay. Thank you, and talk soon. Bye-bye.